What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I'm going to continue my conversation with you concerning the complete history of boxing. On a Wednesday night, March 11th, 1942, Cleveland's great light heavyweight, former middleweight contender, 22-year-old Jimmy Bivins would defeat world light heavyweight champion, 27-year-old Gus Lesnevich in a non-title affair. It was in Cleveland, Ohio. Very important to understand that it was a non-title affair. Now, Jimmy Bivins would be in the ring with fighters such as Tiger Ted Laurie, Ari Wilson, Charlie Doc Williams, and Willie Beam, Coley Wallace and Pat Valentino, Turkey Thompson, and Sid Peaks. He was even in the ring with fighters such as Edgar Charles and Archie Moore. Now, he turned professional with Edgar Charles in 1940, but he never got a title shot. The closest to a title shot opportunity that Jimmy Bivins would receive would be in the ring with Gus Lesnevich, and that was a non-title affair. Now, he was in the ring as a heavyweight with Joe Louis, but that was an exhibition. Jimmy Bivins would become the duration light heavyweight and heavyweight champion when Joe Louis was in the war, but he never got a legitimate title shot opportunity. Now, Bivins was 5'9". He had a 76-inch reach. He had a record of 25 wins, 4 losses, and 10 knockouts. He was 22 years of age at that time. Gus Lesnevich was 27 years old. He stood 5'9", had a record of 53 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws, and 16 knockouts. Both men very good fighters. Jimmy Bivins was the better of the two, in my opinion. He did not get a fair opportunity. I want to make that very clear, because once you look at history and you compare fighters and you name fighters, those that you know, those that you may not quite be aware of, you're going to leave these fighters out because you're looking at the record book. You don't know the situation and or circumstances they were under, so they'll get left out. So that's very important for you to understand these little details. March 27th, 1942, Joe Louis would defeat Abe Simon in 6 rounds, New York. I want to talk about April 24th of 1942. Joe Louis, he had a trainer by the name of Chappie. His name was Charles Henry Blackburn. He would pass away at the age of 58. At the age of 58, just make it clear. He died in Chicago, but he was born in Kentucky. He was born May 20th, 1883, and he died April 24th, 1942. And you may read someplace where he was 59. You'll read where he's 58. But he fought from 1900 to 1923. He had a total bout career of 72 bouts, 47 wins, 9 losses, 34 knockouts, and 11 draws. He stood 5'10", had a record of over 300 fights. 300 fights. He weighed between 133 to 160 pounds. But you have to understand about Blackburn and men in his era. He fought in saloons. He fought in bars. He would go from town to town challenging people, because at that time, you didn't have promoters who would just pick up a Jack Blackburn. He had to earn his way there, taking on the toughest men of his time. Imagine you having to challenge a bully in your school. I mean, that guy would hit a guy with one punch and knock him out. You witnessed this, that kind of thug guy. He did that town after town after town. Didn't know what weight the man was, didn't give a damn. That's what was presented to him, and that's who he had to deal with. See, that's different now than cherry picking that you got going on in modern boxing. And have that then. So there's 2 different boxings. That's why when I hear conversations about across the board boxing, you never hear me engage myself in that conversation. That's for guys who don't really understand what the game is truly about. You got to stick with the era that you're either most familiar with or you can compare. I'm familiar with every era in boxing history, but I don't compare the two because they're not the same. They're not the same. So we just want to make that clear. Jack Blackburn, trained fighters such as Canada Lee, Lou Ambers, Joe Louis, George Godfrey, the Leaperville Shadow, Sammy Mendel, Jersey Joe Walcott, Charles Bud Taylor, and many, many others. What you have to understand, Jack Blackburn, he was in the ring with so many great fighters. Men like Dave Holly 5 times, Joe Gans 3 times, George Gunther 10 times, Sam Langford 6 times, Harry Hairpin Lewis and Harry Greb, Joe Grimm, Panama Joe Gans, Kid Norfolk, Joe Burrell twice, Professor Mike Donovan, Willie Langford, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, Cleve Hawkins, and Harry Hairpin Lewis, if I didn't already mention him, Jim Barry, who Sam Langford was in the ring 12 times with. These are the kind of men he was in the ring with. He served a 5-year prison sentence that he should have served 15 years for, but because he was willing to teach the judge's son how to box, he was released 10 years early. What happened with him, he was getting in an argument in 1909 with a friend, him and his common-law wife, and a man's wife, sitting there playing checkers, or whatever game it was, bidwits, and something got heated. So they would leave. Jack Blackburn couldn't sit on that too well, so he went back with his common-law wife, had her knock on the door while he hid in the bushes. She knocked on the door, and when she knocked on the door, the wife of the man that he had a confrontation with had stabbed his common-law wife. Well, Jack Blackburn didn't like that very well, so he leaped out of the bushes when he saw the man, and he shot him. He realized that his common-law wife was stabbed up pretty good. He took her to the hospital. When he did that, he realized that his gun, which was a revolver, was left in the bushes. So he ran back to try and get his gun. Turned out a black cop was already waiting there for him. Took him under custody. His arraignment. Turned out he was charged in murder and so on and so forth. So assault charges. So he wound up getting a 15-year prison bid. Like I said, he got out 5 years, and he would resume his career. Jack Blackburn passed away in 1942. One of the greatest fighters of all times. It's a shame that he's not in the Hall of Fame as a trainer. As a fighter. He's in the Hall of Fame as a trainer, but he's not in the Hall of Fame as a fighter. Make that clear. And I'm pretty annoyed about that just as much as Harry Wiley Sr. is not in the Hall of Fame as a fighter. As a trainer. These guys got me backwards. Harry Wiley Sr. is not in the Hall of Fame as a trainer. Jack Blackburn is not in the Hall of Fame as a fighter. Jack Blackburn is in the Hall of Fame as a trainer, but not a fighter. Harry Wiley Sr. is not in the Hall of Fame as a trainer. Just want to make it clear. And so I spent many years trying to be a part of trying to get him in the Hall of Fame. I'm going way back, 30 years ago. And it never happened. And it's just unfortunate. To this day, these men are not in the Hall of Fame for their right positions. Now, May 15, 1942, Sammy Ingot would defeat New Jersey's Ali Stoltz 15 rounds in New York. And he remained lightweight champion, but he would retire the belt. Again, Ray Robinson was supposed to get that opportunity to face Sammy Ingot. A lot of people don't know this. It's not in the history books, not in the record books. It's not in common conversation. People who were there know this. He was promised an opportunity at a title shot. No, he was not a lightweight. He wasn't ranked. Better said than say contender. He wasn't ranked in the lightweight division. But he was given an opportunity by Ingot. It was a money fight. Last minute, something else came up with Ingot. I'll give him the benefit of a doubt for whatever reason that was. And he decided to renege on the deal. So he did not come in on his weight. He came in weighing 136 and a half pounds. Ray Robinson weighed the exact same. Fed him a sandwich or so and wanted him to come in a little bit overweight. Because John Roxbaugh, who understood that agreement, was going to make an issue of this. And it turns out that Server will retire. And at that time, and let me just say this. Let me just say this. The problem was, here was the problem. Ali Stokes, that's kind of like where the problem really was. You had to get past him because Tippy Larkin was guaranteed a shot. And Bojack was the next logical contender, but he had to get past Ali Stokes. It was almost like saying, I'll pay you step-aside money. Ray Robinson was supposed to fight Angot, but because of the Ali Stokes situation, that's why they didn't know how to get out of that fight. So they made that arrangement with Robinson. That's what happened. 90% of the people don't even know this, but this is what happened. So it's just unfortunate. That's the first time Ray Robinson was promised an opportunity, and he was reneged. Second time, Freddie Red Cochrane's manager, Cochrane wanted no part of him. He talked to Gangsford, and they were going to give him a shot. Gangsford had a record on, had an office on Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, and he also had an office in Manhattan. And they were trying to make that arrangement, and Freddie Red Cochrane wanted no part of it, so that didn't happen. Marty Servo defeats Freddie Red Cochrane because Cochrane defeated Frizzy Zivit. And Ray Robinson defeated Zivit in 41. He defeated him again the following year. Robinson was supposed to get that shot. Zivit didn't give a shot to Robinson. Robinson was lightweight, but he was going to move up just for that opportunity because of what happened to his dear friend Henry Armstrong. Inside information I'm giving you here. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. So when Marty Servo was supposed to fight Robinson after the war, he did not want to fight him. He already lost to him twice. So once he fought Graziano tapped him on the nose. He said he had a broken nose, and he retired. So now Robinson had to fight the next contender. 3 men didn't want to fight Ray Robinson. So they asked Bojack and Tippy Larkin. They said no. Man who was ranked number 7 from Youngtown, Ohio, then came up and had the opportunity. And his name was Tommy Bell. That's how he got the shot in Madison Square Garden. So I'm saying all this to tell you the shenanigans, the things that took place during that time. Now, May 25th, 1942, he had a fighter named the Cincinnati Cobra. His name was Ezzy Charles. He would defeat Pittsburgh colored welterweight and middleweight champion, Black Murderers Row fighter Charlie Burley. 10 rounds in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Hickory Park Arena in front of 10,000 spectators. Now, Frizzy Zivit defeated Lou Jenkins in the main event. May 25th, June 29th, 1942, Forbesfield, Pennsylvania. 20-year-old Ezzy Charles defeated 24-year-old Charlie Burley. Now, Burley had a record of 51 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, and 32 knockouts. Their first fight. Second fight, he had a record of 52 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, and 32 knockouts. The 1 loss came from the same man, Ezzy Charles. Ezzy Charles had a record of 22 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and 11 knockouts. Next time he fought Burley, he had a record of 23 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and 11 knockouts. The man that he defeated was Charlie Burley. So when you look at Ezzy Charles, Cincinnati Cobra, to me, he was one of the greatest middleweights of all time had he stayed at middleweight. He's known as the greatest light heavyweight champion who will never win a title. He would win the heavyweight championship title when he defeated Judge Joe Walcott in 1949 when Joe Louis would appoint both men after Joe Louis would retire. I saw Ezzy Charles, it might have been a few months before he died. My dad took me to a function. I didn't know he was Ezzy Charles. He had a belt and he was in a wheelchair. It was an event. And I learned later on that he was Ezzy Charles. And how that happened, we were doing a scrapbook together. And he told me, yeah, he was talking about the Ezzy Charles and that I saw him. I said, what do you mean I saw him? Wait a minute, you don't remember you saw him. I took you at the affair. I forget what the affair was, but Charles was there, and he was promoting a disease that he was suffering from, and MS was the disease, and he had the belt strap, and everybody was around him, but I didn't know who he was. It wasn't a big deal to me at the time. Had I been able to appreciate as a Charles then, it would have meant more to me. But I did see him. My dad reminded me of him that I saw him. But I vaguely remember it. But yeah, I remember that situation with Ezzy Charles. I wish I had a chance to meet him. May 5th, 1942, Ray Robinson defeats Marty Servo 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden. The referee was Billy Kampanoff. And he had it 3-5 for Marty Servo, although 2 rounds was taken away from him. Again, this is the thing that was happening to fighters, Ray Robinson included. It was a lot of bias at that time. A lot of bias. Robinson was 21 years old. He stood 5'11", weighed 144 pounds, and had a 72.5-inch reach. Marty Servo was 22 years old. He had a record of 43 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws, and 11 knockouts. He stood 5'7", weighed 143 pounds. Robinson fully controlled Servo for over 10 rounds in front of 13,673 spectators. Together, they would collectively pay $31,870. Servo, his name was Marty Servo. Marty Severnio was born November 3rd, 1919 in Schenectady, New York. He died February 9th, 1969. He was 49 years of age at the time of his death. He fought from 1938 to 1947. Had a combined record of 43 bouts, 47 wins, 4 losses, 14 knockouts, and he was stopped twice in his career. Friday, October 2nd, 1942, Ray Robinson defeats Jake LaMotta, 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden. Ray Robinson gets decked in 1 round, and he would turn around and win the bout. Now, collectively, they would fight 65 rounds, 9 years, between 1942 and 1951, 6 contests, 2 fights in 3 weeks, 1943. Ray died at the age of 67, April 12, 1989. Had the pleasure of meeting Ray Robinson, 2 separate occasions. Jake LaMotta died, 95 years of age, at 2017. I met Jake LaMotta several times. Ray Robinson was 40-0, and he lost to LaMotta 4 months between 1942 and 1943. After his loss to LaMotta, he fought 3 weeks, February 1943. Now, Jacob LaMotta, the Bronx Bull. He was born July 10th, 1942, in Manhattan. He would reside to the Bronx, New York as a young boy. He died September 19th, 2017. He was 95 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Florida. Fought from 1941 to 1954. Had a total bout career of 106 bouts, 83 wins, 19 losses, 30 knockouts, and 4 draws, what a lot of people don't know. Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta, they began their careers in 1940. I say 40, although he had his first fight in 1941. He got his license in 1940. I consider him a 1940s fighter. In 1939, Ray Robinson would win the featherweight Golden Glove Championship. 39, LaMotta won the Diamond Belt Light Heavyweight Championship. Both these men, as I said, fought in 1940. That's when they started. And they both ended their career with 19 losses, both of them. Now, I put Ray Robinson and LaMotta in a 19-loss middleweight championship club. What am I saying? You had Dick Tiger, Iron the Blade Barkley, Mickey Walker, Ray Robinson, Jacob LaMotta. These men would all end their careers with 19 losses. They were middleweight champions. Ray Robinson had more fights than these fighters. And he's the only fighter of the 5 men that I mentioned to you. 4 of them were champions in they started in 1940. They would lose their title in 51. He's the only one that would regain his title the same year in 51. LaMotta lost his title in 51 as well. So when you look at some of these fighters and you understand the obstacles that they had to overcome, you can appreciate these men much better. Now, Robinson was 21 years old. He stood 5'11", weighed 145 pounds, had a 72.5-inch reach, had a record of 35 wins, no losses coming into that contest. Jake LaMotta was 20 years old. He stood 5 foot 8 inches, weighed 157.5 pounds. And he had a 67-inch reach. Trying to remember. He had a record of 25 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. On the undercard, he had Bo Jack defeating Chester Rico in 8 rounds. Unanimous decision. Now, Bo Jack was 21 years old. He stood 5 foot 6 inches, weighed 134 pounds, and had a 68.5-inch reach. Chester Rico was 25 years old. He had a record of 37 wins, 4 losses, 4 draws, and 12 knockouts. He stood 5 foot 8 inches. man, guessing all of this. Bo Jack, what was his name? Sidney Walker. He was born April 1st, 1921 in Augusta, Georgia. He died February 9th, 2000. He was 78 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Augusta, Georgia. His last bout was in 1955 with Ike Williams. Now, here's the deal. He was in the Hall of Fame in 1972, Boxing Hall of Fame in 1986, Georgia Hall of Fame in 1979, and International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1991. He was stopped 4 times and had 5 draws. He defeated Tippy Larkin, 3rd round knockout. He became the lightweight champion of the world, December 18, 1942, New York SAC World Lightweight Championship title. Madison Square Garden. He would lose to Bob Montgomery, November 19, 1943, and Bo Jack faced Bob Montgomery August 4th, 1944. Non-title fight. They would earn $35 million. It was in bonds money. So it was like, I think it was $35,864, something to that effect. And it was amazing because these men would only earn $1 apiece. $1. Ray Robinson was a 5-1 favorite. 12,784 spectators resided in New York's Madison Square Garden. They would pay collectively $29,434. Now, Jake LaMotta, who was known as the Bronx Bull, his name was Jacob LaMotta. He would defeat Marcel Sedan June 16, 1949, the World Middleweight Championship contest. February 14, 1951, he would lose that title to the great Sugar Ray Robinson. December 18, 1942, 27-year-old Tippy Larkin from Garfield, call him the Garfield Gunther. He gets KO'd by Bo Jack, 3 rounds, with a right uppercut, left hook combination to the chin. 23 straight victories before losing to Bo Jack. Tippy Larkin. His name was Anthony Pelletier. Yeah, Anthony Pelletier. He was born November 11th, 1917 in Garfield, New Jersey. He died December 10th, 1999. December 10th, 1991, Garfield, New Jersey. He stood 5 foot 7 inches. He was a lightweight and a junior lightweight. He had a 71-inch reach, fought from 1935 to 1951, had a total bout career of 151 bouts, 80 wins, 57 knockouts, 13 losses, 131 total wins. This man was something else. He fought 19 times in the main event in New York's Madison Square Garden. Bo Jack fought 21. Mel Griffith 24. And what's great about some of these fighters that we talk about was the time in which these men came. They were phenomenal and they were great fighters. So I'm going to end this video. My name is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff Series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you in the next video. In fact, you know what? No, let me show you. I'm going to show you some photos. Give me 1 second. Now, this is Jacob LaMotta. I just wanted to show you Jake LaMotta. A picture I have with him is autographed. The Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. Here he is, the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta. He was the world middleweight champion. Very good fighter was Jake LaMotta. Met him several times. And then later on in his life, he started wearing a cowboy hat. See him at the fights all the time. Very, very good fighter. And very good person to talk to was Jake LaMotta. Another photo of my collection is a fighter by the name of J.D. Turner. You heard me talk about him several times. J.D. Turner was in the ring with Kingfish Levinsky, Billy Conn, Abe Simon, Charlie Burley, Tiger Jack Fox. In fact, he fought Burley March 13th, 1942. He would lose to Charlie Burley. But J.D. Turner was a pretty decent fighter from Dallas, Texas, as a heavyweight, as you can see. Excuse me. I just wanted to show you J.D. Turner. I guess I have a huge photo collection, J.D. Turner. Now, this is one of 5 Zivic brothers. His name is Pete Zivic. He was in the ring with Buster Brown and Bushy Graham, Al Foreman, Eddie Shea, Al Singer, Mickey Blair, Kid Francis. He fought in the 1920s Olympic Games. He had 2 brothers that would be part of, trying to end this below here. Part of the Olympic Games, and they would win gold medals. They would be the only 2 brothers outside of the Spink brothers that would both win gold medals in the same games. But this is Pete Zivic. Pete Zivic. I just wanted to show you Pete Zivic. So anyway, I'm Scrapbook Boxing. These are just a few more photos I'm going to show you from my collection. Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Continue to look out for the complete history of boxing. Thanks for listening. We just covered 1942. Peace.